Hey there neighbors, Kevin here with etrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Gen-Y shock absorbing fifth wheel to gooseneck pin box here on our 2019 Highland Ridge Mesa Ridge Light fifth wheel trailer. So our neighbor came to us today in need of an option to connect his fifth wheel trailer up to his truck, which has a B&W turnover ball kit in it. So he needs to be able to go from that fifth wheel kingpin style pin box down to that gooseneck style hitch that he has in his truck. And originally he was using an adapter, but there's a lot of issues that go along with those adapters. Realistically, the only thing really holding it to your kingpin is just 3 set screws, which could easily start to walk themselves back. On the outer portion of that adapter, there's also 3 bolts that just get kind of tightened down, and then a jam nut to hold them to help prevent them from backing off. But there's still the opportunity for some kind of error there or some sort of looseness. You're going to have to constantly be checking those bolts. Honestly, it's a lot of nerve-wracking just possibilities out there for something to go wrong with it. It's also going to add on a bit more height too. So if you're already dealing with some height issues between keeping the trailer level and then the actual ride height with your truck, then that can also throw some things off. But swapping it out with just the Gen-Y fifth wheel to gooseneck is going to give you that option without all that added headache. And with this, it's also going to give you some shock absorption, so you can make that ride quality a whole lot more comfortable. Gen-Y has a patented torsion technology built into this, so each one of these bolts right here is going to have one of these rods running right through it, and it's going to go all the way through with 4 rubber cords fighting it. So every time we hit a bump in the road and it wants to kind of push up on this, it's going to be fighting those cords because they just want to stay exactly how they are. So it's going to start to twist that as it lifts up, and then those cords will force it right back into place, and that's what's helping give us that shock absorption. And then if you look a little bit closer down here, there's also another stop pad right here which would butt up to the bottom of the hitch. So if you did potentially hit some giant hole in the road and you really put a lot of pressure on it and bumped it up, it would have some sort of protection here so that it's not totally bottoming out metal on metal. With this style pin box, it is going to have a little latch you'll have to pull here, pull that back, lock it open. And on some of the other models, this is the older generation when it comes to this latch. There is a new Y style latch that's going to be on there. So if you see this Y right here, it's shaped exactly like that and it is red. So just depending on inventory, you might end up seeing a different latch here, but still the same concept. We're just pulling this back. It opens it up, has us ready to latch up to our gooseneck ball, so then we can back up our truck and lower down our front jacks, so that way we can couple up to our gooseneck. With our standard gooseneck couplers, you're typically going to have to get up into the bed, or you'll have to be stepping up onto your tire just so you can reach over into the bed and pull the latch down and get it in place. Now with the Gen-Y, we're going to have a latch on a rope, so we'll be able to pull it while we're still at the tailgate, getting everything kind of hooked up, and we don't have to try and reach over and potentially, slip and fall when we're stepping up on our tire there. Now in terms of capacity, this is going to have a 30,000 pound gross towing weight capacity, and this is set up for tongue weights or pin weights from 1,500 pounds up to 4,500 pounds. So you will want to verify exactly what your pin weight is and your gross vehicle weight rating, which you can find on the side of your trailer, just right over on the driver's side, typically right at the front where the nose ends and the body of the trailer begins. And right on there, they will typically at least have the GVWR. They might also have the pin weight listed for you. If not, then you will want to just do some quick math. It's typically about 15 to 25% when it comes to pin weight, just depending on how you have your stuff loaded in the trailer. That's kind of what you can expect. So if you did your GVWR times that percentage, you could figure out a rough estimate of what your pin weight is to see if you fall within this or if you need to size up to the next class. Now there is another big thing here, and that's going to be our bolt pattern. So there's a bunch of different bolt patterns. This one right here will fit multiple patterns and a few others with some extra shims depending on what bolt pattern you have. So you will want to make sure that you figure that out. Now on our old one, they did actually list it on the front. So right here you can see the pin box model. It says Lippert 1621. That tells us we have a 1621 bolt pattern. Now not every single one of these will actually say that, so you might need to look for the serial sticker, which is typically over on the passenger side of our wings. And this has our serial number, our LCI item number, and then also the RPO number. And with that information, we can look up the frame, which is also going to give us all the information we need for our pin box. One other cool thing that Gen-Y offers is that it will actually give you a custom paint job with your pin box if you reach out to them. Now, it is going to cost you a little bit of additional money, but if you're really wanting to go for that full aesthetic, especially if you spend all that money on that trailer and it looks super nice, you want to have something that's going to match it and make it look just as good. You can reach out to them and they can get this changed from that hammered powder coat finish over to exactly what color you want. But with all that being said, we can talk about the installation now. Now, this is something that is pretty heavy. This pin box definitely weighs a whole lot more than our original just because there's a whole lot more built into it, especially with this giant torsion head here. So this is going to weigh quite a bit more than one person can handle. So you want to have a couple of buddies with you or maybe some other kind of heavy equipment to help actually lift this into place and get it oriented correctly so that you can actually bolt it up. As far as tools go, you're not having to pick up anything special. Really, all you need is a 1/2-inch drive torque wrench in order to get these torqued down properly. That's something you could easily get here at a local hardware store or even rent for free typically at your local auto parts store. So shouldn't really put you out too much money in order to get this installed. The other thing is you will want to make sure that you pick up some safety chains because they do not include those with the pin box, so this is a requirement for you to be able to safely tow, and especially in the event of a breakaway where it pops off the gooseneck ball or maybe the hitch in the truck failed and the gooseneck ball goes with it. We need some sort of way for this to stay attached to our vehicle so we could go and slow down to a safer stop instead of having our trailer just fishtailing all over the road. But with all that said, if you feel like you can't really get this into place or maybe you just don't have all the buddies or the time to do so, then please feel free to use our dealer locator. You can enter in your zip code and find a shop near you to get this installed. If you are wanting to do this yourself, then stick around and I'll walk you through the process. So starting off our install, we want to make sure that we have any of our wiring out of the way. So typically that's going to be your junction box or your 7-way and then your breakaway switch. In our case, our breakaway switch is mounted to our mounting ears, and the same thing with our 7-way. There's a brace that runs between the two mounting ears, which are these guys right here, and the pin box is just front of that. So I don't really see any kind of interference that we're going to have once we drop this pin box out of here, so we should be good to go. If you find that it is going to be an interference issue for you, you can just pop the junction box off, kind of let it hang out of the way, and then get your new pin box in place and then reinstall all of your wiring. Now on ours, the bolts and nuts are both going to require a 15/16 socket and wrench, and we're just going to pop these off. I've already got a pallet right here to kind of help pick up the weight here, and then when this kind of drops down, I got something here to help secure it so that way it doesn't just drop all the way to the floor. If you don't have a forklift and pallet to use, then you're going to want to have a couple of guys with you just to help handle the load here. Now, a typical 16/21 pin box really isn't going to be super heavy. It's not like our replacement with the Gen-Y here where you really will need a bunch of people. So this one, you can probably do 2 or 3 guys just popping it down, but you'll want to have more probably for that one because that one is quite a bit more. But with all that said, I'm going to start loosening up our bolts here. I'm going to leave these bolts in just for now, just to help hold it up while we get the rest of the hardware out of the way. Alright, I've got all my hardware out now. I'm going to slide it out of the way. So what's happening is we're pinched between the mounting ears. That happens sometimes. Sometimes they just want to fall right out. You can kind of pry on it, pull it down a little bit. I might move my pallet here a little bit more in. But we'll give this a little shove and see what happens here. Get some of this hardware out of the way. Yep. So I am going to have to loosen up the breakaway switch. That wire is way too tight here. Unless we can push forward. Alright, yeah. There There we go. Yeah, so just be mindful. Like I said, look how they ran that up real tight over that cross member. All right, so like I was saying, original one, pretty light, probably 30, 40 pounds. So this is something you could get out of the way on your own. But the next guy that we're gonna throw in there, that Gen-Y, that's pretty heavy. So get yourself a couple of strong buddies to help you out. All right, we're pretty close now. We're at a point where I don't want to really move the forklift too much more. We're just gonna use our pry bar to just fully pull us where we need to be. And then we're gonna start reinstalling our hardware. Now, I'm reusing the same exact pattern. This is 1621, and these holes are spaced 2 inches apart. So I looked at that on the inside because there's a bunch of different holes on our Gen-Y pin box because they're gonna fit a variety of patterns. So I measured with my tape measure on the inside to figure out exactly which one was following that pattern, and I went with that set of holes. So one thing about this, like I said, we're reusing our hardware. They don't give you more when you buy this, so you will need to make sure that you keep that, and if it is not looking the best, maybe the threads are all chewed up, maybe it's time to go out to your hardware store. You can pick up these same bolts, just make sure that you're getting the correct sizing and the correct grade when you are picking it out. And to figure out the grade, you just look at the head of the bolt and it'll have some stamps in it, and that's what'll tell you exactly what that grade is. All right, so here is our bolt. It's an SAE, so this is not metric. You can see those 3 little stamp lines that are on there. That means this is a grade 5 bolt. If you had none on there, that'd be grade 2. With 3 on there, it's 5, and then if you have 6 on there, it'd be 8. But now we can start slotting in our bolts. On the inside, we're gonna have a split lock washer and then a nut that we're gonna put on here. And now there should be a little bit more room just because we have better access up through this area here. And it's a little bit more open on the inside, so I should be able to get my wrench in there a whole lot easier than it was with our previous pin box. Now, since we are reusing hardware, it's a good time to kind of check everything out. So like I was saying before, check the threads on the bolts. Same thing with your other hardware, with your nuts. Check those threads, make sure they're not chewed out. And then on the split lock washers, make sure these aren't flat. If this is completely flattened down, then that is past its use. Or if it's split open too far, then it'd be time to replace these as well. But each one of ours is looking pretty good for right now, so I'm gonna pop these back on. With our split lock washer on, we can then thread on our nut. All right, now I'm gonna come back with my impact and my wrench, and I'm just gonna snug each one of these nuts down, and then we will finally come back with our torque wrench, torque it all down, and then we should be good to test it out. All right, we're all ready. We got these all snugged down. We are gonna torque these down here, and one other thing that we did was we also installed our safety chain. Gen-Y has some awesome safety chains for you, and they just slip right through the slits that we have here, so it's designed to just pull the chain right on through. You will have to take one clevis off to do so, but it's just a simple cotter pin with a pin right there that'll pop right through, and then you got your clevis off. Run the chain through, and then just kind of do it equal across both of them, and you're all ready to go there, and you'll be road legal. But let's get these torqued first. That's the next one. Once you have all your bolts torqued down, your safety chain in place, and then any wiring that you had to remove, just get it reattached so you're all ready to go. And that'll do it for the install. You just gotta go and hook up to your truck and you're ready to pull. All right, so now we're at the back of the truck. One thing I like to do whenever I am backing up and trying to hook up, just take your safety chains and you can pop them back on the back ledge here on the inside, and that'll help keep those out of the way so they're not dragging and smacking up the bed of your truck. Same thing with your electrical cables, your breakaway switch. Get all that up out of the way. That way you're not potentially damaging it or catching it on anything where you could maybe pull it right out, and then you got a much bigger issue at hand. So we've got our latch ready to go. We're ready to couple up. I'm now going to go back to our leveling system. We'll drop this down on the ball. Now, if you don't have an extra set of hands to help guide you onto the ball, a good idea would be to get a third brake light camera. And we offer those here at etrailer as well. That'll give you some better vision here just because it's a little bit harder to see through that back windshield. And as we start to couple up, you'll see that latch pop into place, and now it's locked. Once we get the Now we have the full weight of our trailer heading on. We can pick up our jack legs here. All right, so there's a couple other things we want to hook up. One of them being our breakaway switch. So I got that tied up to one of the tie-down points here in our bed. We'll also need our 7-way. With that fully in place, now we can get up into the bed, or if you want to go from the side, pop them right in. Now the last thing we need to do is just make sure we have our wheel chocks out from our wheels, and we should be good to take off. Now we've got our hitch all locked in place. We're coupled up to our gooseneck ball. We got our safety chain loops on. We have our breakaway switch and our 7-pole already hooked up. Last thing to do, just make sure you got your tailgate closed. You don't want to take off, make a turn, and have your tailgate bump right up against your trailer. But with that said, let's hop in the truck and do a little test drive. So we went on a little test drive. This actually handled a little bit better than I thought it would when it comes to our bump course. It's such a low speed we're going at, so it really chucks a ton whenever we're going over that. But this, I could kind of feel fighting against it. Did pretty good job. I think if we were going a little bit faster, it probably would have been a little bit smoother of a pass through there. But other than that, the only other thing I would say is this guy's really going to need to be careful because he does have a lot of other stuff in the bed. If he makes too sharp of a turn, the back of this is going to come up and it's going to smack his toolbox that he has here that swings out. So that is one thing to keep in mind. While a gooseneck hitch does give you a lot more space in your bed, typically you're not going to be able to really haul a ton of stuff behind the rear axle. You need to kind of have it all up front here so that way the body of the pin box doesn't come into contact with it. But other than that, that's pretty much going to do it for today. My name's Kevin, and if you still have some questions about what's going to be the right fifth wheel to gooseneck pin box for your trailer setup, please feel free to reach out to us via our Ask the Experts link, a comment on this video, or a phone call to our customer service department, and we'd be happy to help you out on your journey.